It's been a year since Yobina defeated Zuwena, the Eye Woman. Life has been going well, and her business has been flourishing beyond her imagination. Yobina's touch was no longer a local salon. It was an empire built to beautify women. She opened several branches of her salon all over the country and employed numerous hands. People came not only for her legendary styles, but to sit in the same chair where she fought darkness and lived to braid again. Yobina was no longer an ordinary braider. She was a symbol of wealth and a legend in lace and courage. However, beyond her fame and success lay a dark web waiting to be uncovered. Things started falling apart for Yobina when her customers started facing strange occurrences in their lives. One fateful day, a young lady named Priska walked into the salon to braid her hair. She had been hearing of Yobina's touch and the wonderful magic the owner performed on women's hair, so she decided to visit the salon. When she arrived, she was warmly welcomed by Yobina, who started braiding her hair immediately. However, after the hair was completed, the lady started acting funny. "Priska," Yobina called out to her. "I said I'm done with your hair. I've heard you, but I'm confused. I can't remember coming here to braid my hair. I thought I'm in school. I should be writing my final exams today. Why am I here?" Priska asked, looking very confused. Yobina stood there, looking shocked as well. "Madam, please, I'm not ready for this rubbish. That is how you guys go about scamming people. Pay me my money or I will call the security on you," Yobina shouted. But Priska wasn't joking. Before anyone knew what was happening, she removed her clothes and ran into the streets, dancing like a mad woman. And from that day on, no one ever heard or saw her again. The trend didn't end with Priska. The same thing happened to several of Yobina's customers. Some went blind while she was braiding their hairs. Pregnant women lost their pregnancies shortly after getting home, and others were haunted by terrible nightmares they couldn't explain. Yobina brushed everything off as mere coincidence. To her, she was innocent and had no hands in whatever her customers were going through. She was just a braider doing her job, but deep down, she knew something was very wrong. Still, she pushed the feelings aside. Business was booming and she couldn't afford to let her fear slow her down. However, this was only the beginning of Yobina's downfall. The calamity that would befall her was still gathering strength and waiting for the right time to strike. Yobina continued with her life, refusing to let her fears hold her captive. Despite the strange occurrences, her business was still booming and she was living the best life she could ever imagine. But the cracks began to show when Richard, a tall, handsome man with long black hair, walked into her life. The two met at an event in London and they fell in love instantly. It was love at first sight, even though Yobina couldn't see him. Their relationship blossomed and they got married 5 months after meeting each other. Richard was a typical example of a nobleman. He was caring, loving, and never failed to tell Yobina how much he adored her. However, there was something very strange about Richard. He had natural long hairs and looked more like a woman. Also, he avoided mirrors and made sure none were ever around him. If he accidentally passed one, he would turn his face quickly like he was hiding from something only he could see. Whenever he dropped Yobina off at the salon, he always made sure he never stepped his foot inside. Yobina has questioned him severally about his refusal to enter her salon, but he kept giving flimsy excuses. 3 months into their marriage, Yobina started experiencing strange occurrences in her life. She was awakened every night by a terrifying nightmare. In her dreams, a head and a comb kept chasing after her, and sometimes she would see Richard laughing and smiling while she ran for her dear life. After another terrible nightmare, where she was almost unalived by an old woman, she concluded that something was definitely wrong. First, it was my customers. Now me. What is going on in my life? I'm no longer myself. What should I do? She asked. While she was still thinking, Richard woke up, consoled her, and patted her to sleep. However, one night, the night that changed everything, Yobina was awakened by yet another terrible nightmare. Gasping, she screamed and reached out, grabbing Richard and holding him tightly. The moment she touched him, a shiver ran down her spine. His body didn't feel like his own. It felt softer, unfamiliar, like a woman's body. Confused, Yobina touched him again, just to be sure she wasn't dreaming. Her hands moved slowly across his chest. Then, she felt something soft, an unfamiliar curve. It felt like a woman's orange. Yobina jumped up immediately, screaming and calling out to Richard. Then suddenly, she heard a loud, wicked laugh. The voice didn't sound like Richard's. It sounded like a woman. It was then she realized that Zuwena, the eye woman, had returned. "Good day, my long-lost friend," Zuwena said, laughing as she gestured towards her. "You think you can defeat me like that? No way. It's not that easy. I'm a lioness. I carry power that your little mind cannot comprehend. I'm unbeatable, unstoppable, and the only braider that will ever exist in this community. Until I avenge my death, I will not rest. I'm so sorry, because this time, there is no escape for you," Zuwena said, laughing mockingly. "What do you mean by avenging your death? I didn't kill you, so why are you pouring your anger on me?" Yobina asked. "A friend of my enemy is my enemy. This community ruined me. They took everything away from me. They unalived me. I cursed this community. I told them that no stylist will ever arise from this community. But you, Yobina, a daughter of nobody, want to break the curse? Impossible." It happened that a long time ago, Zuwena was once the most talented stylist in Obodon Chekwa. Back in the 1970s, Obodon Chekwa wasn't a strange, quiet town. It was lively, filled with music, gossip, weddings, and colors. And at the center of it all was Zuwena's salon, a small building with blue walls and white curtains that smelled of shea butter and fresh soap. She was young, dark-skinned, and very beautiful. People used to say, if Zuwena braids your hair, your problem would untangle too. And for a long time, it was true. Women left her salon smiling like they had gotten their prayers answered. Others swore they found peace by just sitting on a chair. People came from Abuja, Benin, even as far as Ghana, just to feel her fingers walk through their scalp. But Zuwena wasn't just talented. She was gifted with spiritual abilities. She believed hair carried more than just beauty. She would say, hair remembers. It holds sadness, love, pain, even things we hide from ourselves. And soon, she started noticing something strange among her customers. Whenever she braided someone's hair, she would hear soft whispers buried in the hair strands. She could sense when a woman had been broken, when someone had told a lie, or when someone had blood in their hands. At first, she ignored it, thinking it was her mind playing games with her. However, the experiences continued. One afternoon, Zuwena was braiding a young woman's hair who had come in with puffy eyes and a shaky voice. As she parted her hair, she felt a strange chill crawl up her fingers. She paused, then continued. The moment her fingers pressed gently on the woman's scalp, a picture flashed in her mind, a blurry image of a man slapping the woman and then apologizing with tears and gifts. Zuwena blinked and shook her head. Was this real? She asked herself. However, she didn't speak to the woman about it or try to confirm if her visions were accurate. But it happened again the next day, this time with an older woman who came to relax her hair. Immediately, Zuwena touched the woman's scalp. She saw the woman crying in a dark kitchen, holding a letter from her husband's mistress. But she kept the visions to herself again. Every time she touched her customer's scalp the right way, just near the crown or slightly behind the ears, she saw something, memories, moments, and secrets. Some were beautiful, but most of them were terrible. She saw abuses, lies, death, and betrayal. At first, Zuwena was overwhelmed. She thought she was going mad. She fasted, prayed, and even tried to wear gloves, but the visions didn't stop. Then one day, she decided to stop fighting and use them to her advantage. Zuwena began to dig deep into the personal life of her customers by just touching their scalp. She knew their inner secrets, even things her customers never knew about themselves. She knew when a customer was very rich and began charging more. If you realized you were rich, you would pay double the price and answer whatever question she asked, no matter how personal. She used the secrets she gathered from her customers to gain control over them. She whispered things to wives about their husbands, to daughters about their mothers, and she was always right. She even told one barren woman what to do to conceive a child in the space of 1 month, and it happened just as Zuwena said. One time, a politician's wife came to do a simple twist out. But as Zuwena touched the woman's hair, she saw the woman hiding stolen money underneath a cemented floor. The next week, Zuwena received a new car as a gift. Soon, her salon was no longer just a salon. It was a place where secrets were uncovered and problems solved. People not only came to braid their hair, they also came to find solutions to their problems. With time, people nicknamed her the prophetess braider. Zuwena made the kind of money that could fill a well. Her phone buzzed endlessly with credit alerts, and for the moment, she felt powerful, not because she made excess money, but because she had the secret of all the women in her palm. However, one rainy Thursday, Madame Onari, the chief's wife, stepped into Zuwena's salon. She came with her driver, 2 bodyguards, and eyes swollen from crying. Everyone knew her story. She had been married for 10 years without a child. She tried every herbalist, every church, every doctor, but nothing worked. Now, her only hope was Zuwena. Immediately she stepped inside. Zuwena knew why she came without even asking. "I need something sacred. I heard you can help me," Madame Onari said. Zuwena looked at her and smiled. "I know what you are here for, but it will cost you. Are you ready to pay the price?" Zuwena asked. Madame Onari sat down and said, "I would do anything just to get a child." "Well, it will cost you 10 million naira. The ritual I will perform for you is very expensive," Zuwena said. "Is that all?" Madame Onari asked. "Yes, that is all," Zuwena replied. That night, Zuwena lit candles, burned incense, and locked the salon doors behind her. The air was thick with smoke and quiet prayers. She crushed ancestral herbs, the same her grandmother only used during full moons. Then, she carefully cut out a strand of Madame Onari's hair and mixed it with a rare oil she had always feared to touch. Ojimiri, they called it, oil from the tree that was said to open souls. She told Madame Onari she was going to braid a wig for her, and once she wears it, all her sorrows will be over. And she meant it. She walked deep into the night, her fingers weaving with purpose and prayer. When she finally placed the wig on Madame Onari's head, it sat perfectly, as if it had been made by the spirits themselves. But then, something shifted. The room fell silent. 1 second, Madame Onari was smiling and admiring herself in the mirror. The next, she froze, her body still, and her expressions blank. Zuwena shook her, screamed her name, but the woman didn't move. Her body was warm, her pulse slow, but her soul was gone. The next morning, word spread like wildfire that the chief's wife had died in Zuwena's salon. As the community descended into chaos, the chief vowed to deal with Zuwena. However, she managed to maneuver her way out of the situation by lying to the community, and they believed her lies. But after Madame Onari's death, nothing was ever the same again in the community. People started experiencing strange and unsettling occurrences. One woman claimed her husband lost his mind after Zuwena twisted her hair. Another swore she heard her wig singing in the midnight. Then came the worst of them all. A little girl had her hair braided by Zuwena and fell into a deep sleep for 3 days. When she woke up, she couldn't realize her own mother. She only said, "Auntie Zuwena told me secrets in the dream." The community could no longer stay silent. They called a meeting at the community square to look for a way forward. "Zuwena is not just a stylist," one of the elders shouted. "She's a witch, a soul thief. She ties spirits into her hairs and collects them like trophies," another one added. The next morning, the chief of the community ordered Zuwena to stand before the council. As they dragged her out of the salon, children cried. Some neighbors looked away, others threw stones at her calling her a witch. Zuwena cried, begged, and tried to convince the people that she was innocent, but they refused to listen to her. Zuwena was not even given an opportunity to speak for herself. They judged her before even hearing her side of the story. The moment she arrived, the angry chief ordered her execution immediately. "I should have known that my wife's death wasn't ordinary. You killed her," the chief yelled angrily. Zuwena was dragged back to her salon and tied to a seat. A hot knife was placed on the fire and her 2 eyes were plucked out as the tradition demanded. Zuwena cried until her voice broke, but no one listened. The women who were once her loyal customers stood watching with stony faces. Blood poured down her cheeks as she shook in pain, her screams echoing through her salon. "This is your punishment," one of the elders shouted. "You used the gift of your hands to steal souls. You are very wicked." A grave was dug right in the middle of her salon, and Zuwena was buried alive, tied, broken, and blind. Afterwards, the community set her salon on fire, burning everything she had ever owned: her combs, her oils, her mirrors, and her memories. As the flame rose, the elders chanted curses over her. Let her soul never rest, let her spirit never find peace, and let her hands never braid again. As Zuwena gave her last scream, she said, "If I can't braid, then no one will ever become a braider in this community." And so it was. Zuwena's body died beneath the burnt salon floor, but her spirit didn't rest. It couldn't. Her pain, her betrayal, her anger held her tight, refusing to let go. And so, her soul did something no one expected. It fused with the very thing she loved most, her hair. Not just her own, but every strand that ever passed through her fingers, every braid she had done, every comb coils, every fallen piece on the salon floor. The wind carried those strands across Obodonchekwa into homes, pillows, combs, wigs, and attachments. And with each strand, a piece of Zuwena lived on. She became more than just a ghost. She became a force, a presence, a cause hiding in plain sight. And so, the haunting began. Stylists who tried to open shop in Obodonchekwa found their combs melting. Their clients went bald overnight, and strange eyes appeared in the middle of freshly made weaves. And one by one, they disappeared into thin air. The community became afraid of braiding their hairs, and no one dared to become a stylist, even if you offered them millions. And no one spoke Zuwena's name aloud, but she was there, in the shadows, in the silence, and in the strands of every cursed head. So you see, Yobina, my anger is valid. I helped this community perform great miracles. I put smiles on their faces, but they turned against me, Zuwena said. But you were using your gift to extort money from them. You even killed the chief's wife. How do you expect the community to react? Yobina asked with fear. You are just a child. You know nothing about spiritual. I didn't kill the chief's wife. Her wickedness did. The children she had wasted during her youth came back for her, Zuwena said. But while they were still talking, Pastor Caleb walked in. Yobina had called the pastor a few hours ago to come and conduct prayers in her house after the terrible nightmare she had. Immediately Zuwena saw Pastor Caleb, she knew her end was near. Pastor Caleb was a very powerful man of God known throughout the country. People feared and respected him because of the great miracles he performed. Pastor Caleb wasted no time. He started praying immediately, and within minutes, the room became very hot. Zuwena screamed loudly, attempting to disappear, but there was no escape route. Pastor Caleb sprinkled an anointing oil on her, and she fell to the ground immediately. He laid his hands on her head and commanded her to disappear forever and never return to the land of the living. And just as he said, Zuwena disappeared, never to be seen again. From that day onward, Yobina and the people of Obodonchekwa lived freely without fear and worry. But how would Yobina explain to the world that her husband was Zuwena? Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this story. Stay blessed.